When your child's chaotic behaviors are running your life, when you're struggling to find practical solutions, and just when you feel you've reached the end of your rope, there comes Harmonious Clan Podcast, equipping you with the proven practical strategies we've developed over the years through our own experiences to bring you strategies that give you results, enabling you to nurture your child from outcast to outstanding, and your clan from chaos to harmony. Welcome to Harmonious Clan Podcast. This is our series, The Consequences of What You Are Really Teaching Your Child. This series includes 3 episodes that will help you understand the consequences of what you are really teaching your child. In episode 1, we'll introduce the concept of the consequences of your reaction to inappropriate behaviors with a story from our own life that illustrates a knee-jerk reaction to a behavior and how that reaction reinforced the wrong behavior in our child. In episode 2, we'll discuss more about the C, or consequence, of the ABCs of behavior, how your child views your reaction, and why you need to be aware of and consistent in your response. And in episode 3, we'll discuss the path from chaos to harmony. We'll discuss the chaotic path, providing the wrong consequences to inappropriate behaviors, versus the harmonious path, understanding how your consequences directly impact your child's future behavior. Make sure to listen to all 3 episodes to learn the strategies that will bring your clan from chaos to harmony. Visit our website at www.harmoniousclan.com to get a copy of our podcast download, The Ultimate Behavior Analysis Template. Harmonious Clan, enabling you to nurture your child from outcast to outstanding, and your clan from chaos to harmony. Welcome to Harmonious Clan Podcast. I'm Marco.
I'm Louisa.
And we are in episode 3 of our series number 2 called, Are You Teaching Your Child the Wrong Things? In episode 2, we talked about the wrong way and the right way to respond to a particular situation or a behavior, and what the outcome is by depending on the way you respond to that child. Basically, what is the consequence that you provide to that child for that behavior, and what does it mean? And today's episode, we're going to look a little more closely at the chaotic path, which is the wrong response, and the harmonious path, which is the right response or the right consequence to that behavior, and see the impact of each of those 2 paths. All right, well, let's get into it. Louisa, you want to start off with the chaotic path?
Yeah, sure. The chaotic path is the easy path. Well, it actually, yes, many times the chaotic path is the easiest path, and you want to take
the easiest meaning...
Well, just say, here you go, have it. Instead of sticking out with it.
Easiest from a get the child off your back, make the behavior stop right now perspective, but not the easiest meaning the right or appropriate way for long-term behavior changes.
In the long run, you will not be happy with that path. Again, quick review on the behavior ABC. A is the antecedent, B is the behavior, and C is a consequence. C is essentially what we're focusing on in this episode, in this series. C is what happens after the behavior. Well, what happens after the behavior can either make the behavior stop, or it can maintain the behavior, meaning reinforce it and keep it going. And your choice, your goal here is to make the behavior stop.
Well, you want to make it stop in the long run, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because I think, as we said in episode 1, where we saw the story, the example of our son playing with his younger sibling, and the way I reacted made the behavior stop. But was it right?
Right. Okay, so the behavior we're talking about is whining and crying for 55 minutes to get what he wanted. And in the end, when you gave it to him, when you just gave to him what he wanted, that made it stop right away. But no, it does not give you permanent harmony.
It doesn't give you long-lasting results, right? It may stop it in the short term, as I learned, but I've just reinforced the wrong thing, meaning that in the future I'm going to have to deal with it again.
Yeah, in the future, if he ever asks for anything and you try to say no, he's going to know, right, that's right, I got to do this for 55 minutes. And he'll go do that. He'll go do the whole drama for 55 minutes. So
you really think children would remember that previous episode and apply that same strategy the next time?
Yes, they do.
They do, yeah.
Your 2-year-old that's not going to sleep remembers that if he cries for so long, you're going to come back.
Me or you?
No, you. For whatever reason, he doesn't cry when I walk away. And for whatever reason, when I walk away, he doesn't cry. It just doesn't happen. But with you, every time you walk away, he cries, I want Papa. and then you go back, and that's why he cries again.
Anyway, so we were talking about the chaotic path.
Right. The chaotic path is not what we're teaching. Think about it from the child's perspective. What are you really teaching him? In the previous example, I talked about if you ask your child to clean up and he doesn't want to clean and he's throwing toys, so you put him in timeout. What is he getting? He's getting to not have to clean because he's standing in timeout or sitting in timeout and watching the other siblings clean. He's getting away with it. So you want to look at whenever you have a repeated behavior that is undesirable to you and you want to fix it, you want to stop it, you really have to analyze what's happening after the behavior. And look at, okay, so if you were the child, what would you rather do? Do you like what's happening after the behavior? If you do, then you're going to naturally do that behavior more. Just like when I said, if the store offers a discount, right? If you buy one, okay, nothing happens. But if you buy two, you get the third one for free. So they alter your behavior. Instead of buying one, you're going to buy two now because you like the consequence. The consequence is getting the third one for free.
And then,
you like
then
that.
you can have the typical response of, look how much money I saved us. Not how much I spent.
Well, yeah, they can very well manipulate you, but that's how things work. Based on the consequence, it's either desirable or not desirable, and that's how you control the behavior. So the chaotic path is the path that usually just kind of gets the behavior to stop right away, but it actually reinforces more of it in the future. So same as the case of going aisle to aisle in the grocery store, the child whining, I want this, I want this, I want this. After 5 aisles of saying that, the mother gives up because it's just too much of a pain and you've got a shopping list to go and you've got half an hour to stay in the store and you got to get this done.
Just got to get home and pick up the kids from school.
Right. And you've got to get to the things you need to get to. So whatever is the easiest to shut up, right? So you say yes. So, of course, next time you're looking at another 5 hours worth of whining because that's just what you're teaching your child. So the chaotic path is one that's typically easier to take. Typically, a lot of times you see, many times even from grandparents or strangers outside, if a child is upset, somebody who's really, really well-intentioned, who just want to help, will come up and offer your child a candy, will come up and offer your child a something, and it makes them feel good that, oh, okay, so your child stopped crying and everything is great, and, they're very well-intentioned. But what that's really doing is for the future, you're encouraging more of that behavior,
right,
for the child to get what they want.
So it sounds to me like the main characteristic of taking the chaotic path is, as a parent, is what?
It's kind of the easy way out.
Doing the easy thing. It's like the easy button for that store, right?
Right. It's the easy way out. To give you another example, when I personally have spent numerous times in a restaurant, well, not in a restaurant, when we're all going out to the restaurant to eat a family meal, I have spent numerous times sitting out in the Texas parking lot. That's like more than 100 degrees on any given day. I spend more days sitting out in the parking lot, skipping our nice family, restaurant dining experience. Because why? Because a certain child is not happy with the seat he's getting, or a certain child is not happy with something. And, instead of redirecting and giving him something else, okay, well, you don't want to sit here. Okay, will you sit there? Oh, you don't want to eat this. Okay, well, will you eat this? Oh, how about we get a dessert? How about we get a this? All of that just feeds into more of that behavior, because that behavior is a blackmailing one. I mean, not to think of our children as evil people, but that behavior, I have been in that position where I feel blackmailed by that. Okay, so it's almost like a gun over your head, and you're thinking, okay, I better give him what he wants or he's going to make a scene out here, right? And most times when you're out, you don't want to make a scene.
And I think
parents.
the children know that too. They know how sensitive the parents are to how they look in public, and
right.
they understand that, and they know when to push the right buttons.
They
because
do.
They know there's more of a chance I'm going to get my way if there's a bunch of people people here in the middle of a restaurant or wherever you may be.
And I'm going to cry.
And they're going to cry and put up a scene. They're going to want to shut me up. And I think that's what they're thinking, right?
Exactly. It's just natural. I mean, they're smart. But hey, not me. Over the years, I have learned, hey, I don't care if strangers looking at me. I mean, they don't walk a mile in my shoes. They don't know what I'm dealing with. They don't know what kind of kids I have. I'm perfectly confident as a parent. And I'm perfectly confident it's okay if they give me a scene. I'm past that. So there comes to a point where my kids can feel that too. No, it's not about how I look in public. It's not about, me being blackmailed. There's nothing you can do that's going to make me feel inferior. As a parent, you have to have that confidence. You have to have that confidence in order to push the consequence that is really going to give you the results that you want. So,
but what you're talking about seems like a lot of work, right? So,
you mean skipping family meal and sitting outside in the Texas parking lot?
Yeah, so that's not the chaotic path, obviously, right? If you don't want
No, I didn't talk about exactly what I was doing in the Texas parking lot instead of dining with you guys, but let's go into the harmonious path, and then I'm going to tell you what that was. So the chaotic, if my child is whining and crying in the restaurant and whatnot because they didn't get what they want, they didn't get the seat they want, hey, seating is important. For a family of 7, certain child wants to sit with certain sibling, certain sibling wants to sit with certain other sibling, and certain sibling wants to sit with certain parents, and it usually takes 5 to 10 minutes in my head working out the seating situation.
It's like musical chairs.
No, and I'm an engineer, okay? I know the algorithm of how to get things and this and that, and it takes me 5 minutes to figure this out, and I just decided, no, I'm not going to do this. We're going to go in, and I'm going to ask for everybody to sit where I ask them to sit, and they're going to have to learn to be okay with that. No, I am not getting to sit with a favorite sibling, with a favorite parent, or with our baby. Everybody wants to sit with our baby. Yeah, so I'm not putting up with it, but again, the chaotic path would be for you to give in, to the behavior, for you to just give them what they want in order to shut them up. And that will only lead you to more and more, because what you're really training your child is to do more of that. That is the way to get what you want. The continuous screaming, yelling, crying, and all of that behavior is the way to get what you want. That's what you're teaching. And I'm sure that's not what you want. So let's go into the harmonious path. So in the case of our kids in the restaurant not being content and happy with either their seating arrangements or the food they're being served, now, instead of being blackmailed that they're going to come up with this giant scene that I'm going to feel embarrassed of. First of all, as a parent, I am in a perfect, comfortable, content position where I'm not threatened by that. But on the other hand, I want to show them that the statement that I'm going to make is, no, you do not behave this way in a restaurant. So at the first sign of a child doing something like that, I take the child out and he goes and sit inside of the car. So, that's how I have spent numerous meals in the Texas parking lot of 100 degrees and higher and sweating. And what am I doing? Well, I can't just put a child in the car because that will be considered what? What was that called?
Child endangerment?
Oh, no, neglect, right?
Yeah.
So no, I couldn't just leave them in the car. I have to supervise them. But hey, let's talk about consequence. Again, what do you suppose will happen if a child is crying and whining because they didn't get what they want, and then I pull them outside? Now, in a family of 5, no child ever gets their one-on-one attention. Okay, so what do you suppose will happen if I pull them out and now I stand with them, I sit with them, or I do something with them from the child's perspective? So I didn't get what I want, I'm whining and crying, and now I get one-on-one time with mom. Look how precious that is, right? Again, this is the power of your consequence. No, I could not inadvertently given them the one-on-one time to encourage more of that whining and crying behavior. So what I had to do instead was I sit in the parking lot. Of course, they don't know that I'm there. They don't know I'm there. They have no idea. But of course, I'm there because I'm an adult and I'm who's responsible for this child. I'm not going to neglect him. I'm absolutely there, watching for his safety, watching for everything without him knowing that I'm there. I am supervising. But to him, it's like, okay, so if I come in and I don't like what's happening here and I yell and scream, I get pulled out. So my child isn't getting to dine with us, neither am I. Neither am I, right? That's the kind of sacrifice you have to be willing to take. This is a harmonious path we're talking, so let's talk about the outcome. Tell us about the outcome of what we're like when we go to a restaurant.
Yeah, so now a couple of those particular scenarios where Louisa did do just what she described to you. The other children were watching, of course, and we found it very effective. And after a couple times of doing that with usually not the same child, because
Right.
once one of them gets in that situation and gets pulled out, they don't do it again. But the other ones will say, well, let me try, right?
Yes, so that's how I ended up doing this so
But
much.
after I would say two of them do it, we don't see that anymore. I mean, the frequency of something like that happening is very low now, and we can usually go out somewhere to eat and sit down, and people don't complain and they don't whine about where they're sitting. And although we do still have to coach them through it beforehand, there's talking up front. Okay, we're going to go in and you sit where you sit, and it's pretty well understood what the expectations are.
Right.
And their behavior has changed in that perspective. So now we can go out and sit down and have dinner, and multiple occasions we've had people come up to us and say, oh, your children are so well behaved. I don't know how you do it with 5 of them and they're all behaving so well and being so polite. And it's just it's good to hear, and it's good to know that these techniques that we're using are effective,
Right.
and that we can go out and have a nice dinner and not be worrying about that type of behavior coming up too frequently
There's
anymore.
no blackmailing. There's no threat. It's always pleasant. It's always harmonious. And, from time to time, sometimes some people may just come up with a little spike of this and that to kind of test you out to see if, hey, what we've already established, is that still true? Or, I mean, it's been 3 months. Is that still true? And, we just make a statement again. Yeah, sure, it's still true. And you make the statement with your action, not with your words. Not with your words. I mean, we've seen in the restaurant where a child is misbehaving and, of course, grooming and all that. And
Yeah, and you can say 5 times to them, stop doing that, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you hear that, and the child just keeps escalating until the parent shoves a dessert or something, right? But you can guarantee that parent is going to have to pay the price of shoving a dessert every time that behavior happens.
Yeah.
But
so it's important, this harmonious path, if you want it in the long term, is to pay attention to the consequence of the behavior. How do you react as a parent? And the other thing is being consistent, right? With your response. It's not going to change.
Like I said, 3 months later, your child wonders if
they'll
things
try
have
it again.
changed.
It's going to be the same thing in the parking lot until you calm down, and then you come back and everything's better. So the harmonious path is more difficult, right? When you say,
Right, it is.
because we talked about the two. There's the chaos path, or the chaotic path. It's
easier.
It's the easy way out.
And you
It's
shove a
the
dessert,
easy button.
you're sitting there,
Yep.
you're back to your meal.
You're back to your meal, but the next time you go out, you're dealing with it again. And if you're doing that 4 or 5 meals, you go out and you're dealing with that each time, you're better off paying the price up front and taking the harmonious path, where you do that consistent feedback and that the proper consequences, so that you are teaching your child the right thing.
Right.
Because when you take that chaotic path, you are teaching your child the wrong thing. You're giving them the wrong feedback, the wrong consequence, and it's just going to happen again.
Yeah, and it doesn't end there. I forgot what was the saying, that if you give them an inch, they'll
take
ask.
a mile.
Yeah, exactly. So if you give in to an inch, now the next thing you're facing is not another inch. The next thing you're facing is a mile. And you
Right.
better give them the same thing. And they just come back with bigger and bigger demands. The thing I really want to share about the harmonious path is just how dramatic and how powerful just being willing as a parent to really think through the consequences that you are giving, or just being willing to make the sacrifice to take the harder path, take the harder way. It's just, the result is so positive, so dramatic, and it's so rewarding. I mean, how many times do we go out and people from some other table send us this, that, free chips, the gentleman giving us ice cream.
The free Frosties.
And there's not a single time when we go out to eat, there's not somebody from another table staring at us. And after so many minutes of it, somebody will walk up to our table. They get out of their way in the middle of eating. They have to come here and talk to us and compliment at our children and go, gee, how do you do it? They're so young. They're so close together. And oh boy, they're so well behaved. And, this is kind of what inspired us to to produce these episodes and to have the Harmonious Clan messaging, because
Yeah, we want to share that and have other people learn from what we've learned, the
Right.
strategies that are practical and that work,
Right.
and so that you can have that type of experience, because it's the greatest thing to be out and with your children and to have somebody actually come up and compliment you how well they're behaved, and many times, like Louisa said, giving us things for the kids, treats for the kids, or dessert or something, and it's just an amazing feeling.
Right, right. And in addition, I mean, these people that are coming up to us, they're just seeing it from the outside. It's like, oh, what a bunch of well-behaved, cute kids. But they're not seeing, what they're not seeing is these kids have special conditions that are always
A
amplified.
lot of challenges, right? to
They're
the behavior.
amplified in behavior. So behaviors are even more challenging than with the average kids in our case. But our testimony here is, hey, you can do it even if your child have syndromes or have conditions that amplifies in behaviors. You can still do it if you're doing the right things, if you're really watching the consequences. And
Yeah, I wanted to. So we talked about these two, the chaotic path and the harmonious path. But I wanted to maybe for a minute quickly loop back to our original story about our son who was playing, and the way I responded basically reinforced that behavior that he can escalate, and get what he wants. So obviously that was the chaotic path, the
Right.
way I responded by reinforcing the inappropriate behavior. How would you describe to our listeners what we would do in that case to get on the harmonious path instead?
oh, right. So in that case, if you're gonna say no, okay, you better be ready to deal with whatever is gonna come. You better be ready to support what you really want to be saying, and understand that your child, hey, good for them. They're resilient. They're gonna go up against you. They're gonna try to get what they want, and that's a good character trait, right? That they're resilient and they will try the hardest to get what they want. But if you're gonna say no, you better be ready. And if they're gonna continue on, in that case, if you're gonna say no, and no matter what he does, you need to not give in. So 55 minutes, okay, go put your earplugs on, but don't give
Yes,
in, right?
It's going back to that consistent consequence.
Right, right.
No
And
matter
so
what they do, the answer is the same.
ignoring is one of the best, absolute best consequences for many of the behaviors. Not all. Some behaviors you absolutely cannot ignore. It has to do with safety. It has to do with health. I mean, it has to do with things that you just cannot ignore. But typically in the case that you can ignore, you should. Right? So, I mean, if you were home with him and it was just the two of you alone and he were to do this 55 minutes, hey, don't give it to him. Put your earplug in. If you know that you can't do this anymore, put your earplug on, go to a different room, do whatever, run, get out of that situation, but do not give in, or write yourself some notes and whatever. Don't give in. And you need for him to be the first one to give in. So go 55 minutes, an hour and a half. I mean, how long can he go for him to realize, okay, it's not getting me anywhere. I might as well stop. So you need to be able to outlive him. That's just the easiest thing to do, and the most effective thing to do is to ignore. But in our case, we cannot ignore those behaviors in many cases, even if it's not about health and safety, because of how, we have multiple children, they're all watching. I consider those behaviors X-rated. No, they are not to be witnessed by any other child for behavior modeling. No, I don't want anybody else, any other child, seeing that and think that that's an acceptable behavior in our household. So in that case, I couldn't ignore. If I cannot ignore, I give him two choices. You're gonna take no for an answer and play quietly and play happily, or you're gonna go to your room to continue this whining and crying until you're all done. Then you may come back and rejoin the family. So those are the choices. In nowhere would you have a choice where if you do a certain amount of things, then you're going to get it.
Okay. I think that kind of wraps that up. So I think the two important takeaways from today is from this episode is the chaotic path versus the harmonious path. If I could say one thing about the chaotic path, it's the easy button, right? It's it's taking the easy way
at the
out.
time.
It's going to lead to chaos later on because your child's going to just repeat that behavior knowing he can get away with things. The harmonious path takes a little more work, but it's all about consistency with your consequences of behavior. You want to be giving consequences that are going to direct the behavior to be appropriate behavior, not inappropriate behavior. And you have to be consistent with that with that consequence. So this wraps up our series now, right? I think
Right.
we're about done. Wraps up our series on are you teaching your child the wrong things? And we learned that you can take the chaotic path and be teaching the wrong things and have to deal with things on, or you can take the harmonious path where you can bring those behaviors to a close eventually by being consistent with your consequences to your child's behaviors. Also, another thing to be thinking about is, what are the consequences of your child's good behaviors? I mean, this series we talked about inappropriate behaviors and how we should respond, but think about the consequences you're showing your child when they're acting properly and showing appropriate behaviors.
Yeah, again, do you want to zap them or do you want to give them sausage?
Right, so that's something to think about. We'll be talking about that in one of our additional series coming up, so stay tuned for that as well.
Thank you for listening to Harmonious Clan podcast series, The Consequences of What You Are Really Teaching Your Child. We illustrated the problem of incorrect responses to inappropriate behaviors with a story from our own clan. We discussed more about understanding how your reactions affect your child's future behaviors. And then we took a look at the path from chaos to harmony, contrasting the chaotic path, providing the wrong consequences to inappropriate behaviors, with the harmonious path, consistently applying the proper consequences to the child's inappropriate behavior. Harmonious Clan, enabling you to nurture your child from outcast to outstanding, and your clan from chaos to harmony. Please visit our website at www.harmoniousclan.com to get a copy of our podcast download, The Ultimate Behavior Analysis Template. You can also get the podcast notes, learn more about us, and get information about joining the clan. You've been listening to Harmonious Clan Podcast with Marco and Louisa. Learn more about Harmonious Clan at www.harmoniousclan.com for information on resources including books, educational podcasts, a supportive community, courses, and one-on-one consulting. Harmonious Clan, enabling you to nurture your child from outcast to outstanding, and your clan from chaos to harmony.